What is up, Honey Badger Nation? This is John Kitchens, man, and welcome to Holy Smokes, episode 170 of Expert Mentors Live. I am super excited with today's conversation and today's guest. We have the one and only Mr. Albie Stasek from the west side of the 21-6. Mr. Al, what's up, brother?
What's going on, Johnny?
Man, just really excited, wrapping up a phenomenal year, definitely a Honey Badger type of year, and super excited heading into 22 and beyond. So, for those of you tuning in, Al is not only a dear friend, but man, Al's one of the OGs, and he's one of the few agents in the entire agent universe that can proudly wear the title of Honey Badger. So it was an award that we used to give out at our Exponential Growth Summit. And I think there's Al, seven? There's 7 of you?
Yeah, I think it's 6 or 7. Yeah.
So being a Honey Badger and what that means is just a relentless pursuit of always finding a better way, and just continuing to find the opportunity when opportunities are not there. And I think that's going to just weave perfect into the conversation that we're going to want to have today, talking about green lights.
Yeah, man. I your assistant was asking, what topic, and you and I, ever since we've picked the book up from our boy Matthew McConaughey, Green Lights. I know you've blown through it. I've read several chapters over and over again, and it's just for me, it's inspirational to the point where what Matthew does, and if you haven't read the book, I highly recommend it. So many parts. Like I love when. The thing that I connected was when he decided to write his book, Green Light. He basically took off, and he went to like 6 different destinations by himself, and took off and just really found himself and got into that mode and allowed himself to there's no distractions, where he could just get fully engulfed. It reminded me of 2 things. I apologize. I'm fighting something weird. But it reminded me of, when we coach people on the clarity report, and how it walks people through how to do that exercise the right way, and not just fill it out, but like how to really get the most of it. And it's like, go somewhere where you can't be distracted, to where you can just get fully engulfed and present in your mind, and have the best vision that you can cast moving forward to get the best out of that exercise. Yeah. And so the second thing it made me think of was one of my bucket list things has always been, and up until earlier this year, I never had done it, where I just went on a trip all by myself with no one else, not friends, no family. I'm not going to, just me. And I did that earlier this year to go get my scuba certification in St. Thomas. And it wasn't so much like, I think that the scuba certification was definitely something I had on my list, but more so it was the ability to go somewhere by myself, no distractions, and just really kind of get lost in my own being. And I guess that was just one of the correlations I drew with the book.
What did you, so going through that experience, what did you uncover? What did you find the real power in being able to do that?
I think that, and this is just something that I never thought about much, but I think I've had a fear of like being alone or doing things alone.
Yeah.
And I do genuinely like to be around people. But somewhere deep down, I knew that I just needed, there's several things that I still have to check off the list, but I'm just saying as an overall thing. And Matthew talks about a lot of his excursions where like he calls the one part of the book where he has the wet dream where, he has this dream that he's floating down the Nile and there's like African, even though Nile isn't in Africa, but there was African tribesmen on either side of there's alligators and there's snakes and there's all these things, but none of them are touching him. And he's just like floating peacefully on his back, down the Nile. And so what, he had, this is just a dream he had. So what did he do? He went and booked a trip for him by himself. And he actually went to South America to the Nile. And he actually, he did that. It's just super inspiring. Really thinking about what are we missing out on in our lives because we're not thinking big enough. We're not thinking outside of everything we were used to from how we were raised and how our parents would take us on a vacation here or there. After we moved out, then it was with our college buddies and we go down, to this, or maybe it was a ski trip with the family or wherever. And not too many people, I think, really schedule that one-on-one time with themselves. And nobody articulated that better than green lights.
Yeah. So for those of you, kind of tuning in, watching this, we're referring to Matthew McConaughey's book called Green Lights. If you guys haven't picked up a copy of it, I would highly recommend getting it on Audible because McConaughey, he reads the book. So you get all of his characters, you get him in his rarest, best form as he tells the stories and walks you through his life, which is just absolutely fascinating. But there's some key principles that come with green lights. Al, kind of explain to everybody kind of what he means by green lights and how we can apply that same principle to our lives.
I think, like, and you just said it, there's several, I guess, examples and context throughout the book. But I guess he would look at it. And remember, we talked about how this coincides with the gap and the gain. There was that one chapter. Yeah. So I don't want to throw people off with two different books at the same time, but, the red light is really like, when you're going down the road and you get hit with a 2x4 or you get, something just stops you right in your tracks. Maybe in real estate, you lose maybe one of your best employees, maybe this, maybe that, or whatever. And a green light is something where, man, like something really great just happened. You just got a great win. You just got he calls it the rite of passage, and when things start to go right. And so I think that we have control over a lot of things, and some things we don't have control over, but the number one thing we have a control over is our awareness. And that is one thing. He's in extreme high frequency in tune with his awareness. And he's not, as things just, I guess, happen in his life, good things. He gets the role of, a couple of times it was him getting the number one role in a movie, and he'd be like, he went out there, he nailed the audition. They called him back, said, you got it, green light, and making the momentum of getting, at the end of the day, it's not about all green lights. It's about getting more green lights than red lights, I think.
Yeah. I like to, also, like you said, certain things happen and there's always, we got to look for the opportunity. And I honestly believe, what happened to you back in 2017, getting those Christmas presents ended up being a huge green light.
Well, but they showed up as two red lights, right? So I had my number one and my number two agents tell me that they were leaving to start their own team, and they were taking a couple of my other agents with them. And, it's a devastating thing for a team leader or a broker of a small brokerage to hear that your top people are leaving.
Yeah.
But if that hadn't happened, the green light of EXP and finding the model and, Cliff never giving up on me, right? And me finally seeing it, it's like when Jay has said, once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's a green light. When you see it, that's the green light. And so for me, if I hadn't gotten the couple red lights in the month prior to me seeing it, I don't know that it would have set the table for me to see to get the green light.
I think you just nailed it right there. Certain things, we have to see a red light to be able to see that there's even a green light. We don't even have an awareness. And, there's a whole formula to change, and it doesn't start until you have an awareness. So sometimes we need those red lights to even have an awareness that there is a green light opportunity around. And so, yeah, no, I mean, it is such a great reminder. And I know, we both have been going through the gap in the game, green lights. I know you picked the hard thing about hard things back up, and not to intertwine a bunch of different books, but there's a common theme there within all of those books. And so, my big takeaway, there's a lot of big takeaways out of the gap in the game, and it's just always looking for the win, and where is the opportunity, and where are you going to win tomorrow? And then how I see it with green lights, with hard thing about hard things, that Horowitz always talks about, is that you always have a move. The only time you're out is when you stop or when you give up. And I love that key takeaway about hard thing about hard things. And that ties back to green lights. It's like, it's only a red light if you just sit there. And, as long as you keep that momentum and keep moving forward and keep that awareness, you're going to find green lights.
There's a part in the book where Matthew talks about his decision, because what happened was he started getting casted for these romantic comedies, and he was known as the romantic comedy guy. And there was literally like a nonstop flow of opportunities of new films that he was getting offered big money. And when I say big money, I'm talking tens of millions of dollars to do, to star in a movie that was the romantic comedy. Well, he had just made a decision that he didn't want to be the romantic comedy guy anymore, even though he's really good at it, even though that's what people knew him as, even though it was literally making him tens of millions of dollars. Just that wasn't what got him excited to get up out of bed early every day like it used to. And he had to say no before he could say yes. And so when you talk about decisions, McConaughey burned the boats on romantic comedies so he could say yes to what he was really passionate about, which was doing films like the Dallas Buyers Club and some of his other big hits that came after he started saying no to the romantic comedy thing. And so how do we relate that to our real estate business? There's no big secret between us, that I've been trying to figure out what I want to do with my real estate team at this point. I'm in a different point in my career. I'm not at the point of my career where I was, even 7 years ago. And so the question becomes, what would it have to look like for me to be excited about it again? And I've been asking that question for over a year, and I'm going to find the answer. But I've been hitting the red lights, and I know there's going to be a green light around the corner. And it's close. It's like right there, but it's about an awareness. It's also about being radically open-minded to what all the things that it could be. And so, I just love that part that, he literally said no to, it was like $15 million for a film that he would have been done shooting in like 6 weeks. Imagine making $15 million in 6 weeks. He said no. And then what's worse is that when he said no to that, all the offers stopped coming in. And for like 18 months, he didn't work. And he was a little bit concerned, but he didn't sweat it. He stuck to the plan. He burned the boats, and he knew that there was other opportunities there, and he just stuck to it. He went all in. Plan B. There's no plan B, only plan A. And it turned out it worked out. He ended up with an Oscar.
He did. He did. And there was a lot that you said there. I want to come back to decisions in just a second. The knowing, making the commitment and having the courage to stand in the fire for 18 months while you're in pursuit of that bigger future for yourself, right? So it comes back to what you said about I'm trying to figure out the new model that's going to continue to allow me to stay in pursuit of the big picture that I have for this endeavor, that I have for Stasek Group, that I have for the brand. And this is where a lot of people get tripped up, is because they're so rigid to their model. They're not open to be flexible. And what gets you to certain stages is not going to get you to the next stages. And so you have to be flexible and fluid in how you design and structure and create your model, but you never lose sight of the big picture. And I can't share this story enough. Had the opportunity to come hang out with you this past weekend. We got to go see MGK close out his tour in Cleveland, and my big takeaway from him, super emotional for him, but he had this vision, and him and his boys sitting up at the very top nosebleeds, as far from the stage as you can get, watching Jay-Z. And they said, they said it right there. We will be on that stage selling out this arena in the future. And, no matter what you think about him or say about him, he didn't let any negativity. He switched up genres. Like he was flexible in the model, but he stayed in constant pursuit of the vision. And the vision incorporates a big, hairy, audacious goal. And he had a big goal to sell out a 20,000, standing room only arena in your hometown. It's storybook. Yeah. It is absolutely storybook. And so the point that I keep telling with that story is that when you have a big vision and you have big goals, you can't let anything stand in your way. You can't let these red lights derail you from pursuit of that vision. You have to always be looking for the green lights. And it doesn't matter if you got to switch up the model, you switch up the model. Yep. MGK goes from rap to rock.
Yeah.
Number one rock album of the year. And so like you never stop, right? Like you said, Al, you burn the boats, you stay in constant pursuit of that vision. You got to be flexible in the model. And, you just keep looking for those green lights.
It reminds me of the book, Hard Thing About Hard Things. And what I literally just jarred my memory was when Horowitz was less than 6 weeks from being out of cash. Meaning in 6 weeks, if he didn't do something, they were going to go bankrupt. They had to shut everything down. And this is was it publicly traded at the time? No, I don't think.
Not yet. That was one of the decisions he made. He took it public to save the company.
Right. But one of his closest confidants, one of the smartest guys on the planet he knew, said to him, Ben, you need to start preparing for bankruptcy now. Not because he was like guessing. It was because this guy has run huge companies and corporations before. He saw the writing on the wall, and he's like, look, you need to prepare your people so they're not shocked when all this is happening. And Ben ended up turning it around, made some moves, because like you had just said, there's always a move.
Always.
And ended up selling that company for,
I don't remember.
It was like $14 a share. It was $1.6 billion. He ended up selling it for
6 weeks from bankruptcy.
Yep. And didn't have to file bankruptcy. And he saved the company. He saw a way. He found a way. There's always a move. And always. So, we're kind of getting off the green lights, but we're not, because, in that book, Horowitz, he was faced with a decision. He was about to have to lay off like 600 employees. These are people that he handpicked, that he absolutely loved, that were they were there early, staying late. doing whatever it took to save the company. And he's staring down like, I got no more moves left, but he did have moves left. And
always have a move.
And so it was like red light, red light, red light. Then he got it. He's like, green light. Okay, let's sell this division. Let's buy this division. Let's go with this. And I mean, he got creative. And actually I wanted to go back. What he was talking about was a lot of the people that were advising him were looking at statistics. And we're big into statistics. Data's driving everything right now, right? But he said these words: CEOs cannot go off of the data. When you're committing and you've made that commitment, you have to go with your intuitions. You have to go with your heart, your gut, your soul. And that's how you find the way. You don't find the way through statistics, through numbers, because the statistics not necessarily are lying, but they're also not going to find you. A lot of times the statistics, because they are what they are. The numbers are the numbers, and they're going to lead you to some red lights. And if you stop there, you're never going to find the green light.
Yeah. No, it's so true. I mean, it's definitely, you want to look at it, you want to be aware, but you can't, solely base all of your decisions just on the data. There's a couple other decision-making factors that you want to factor in. And so Al, I know you've done a lot of research and study on the psychology and everything around decisions and making decisions. I think, it kind of segues. It helps here with our green lights conversation. I would love for you to share with everybody, unpack as much of the decisions, what that is, and decision-making process as we can with everybody listening in.
So I think that you can go so many different ways with this conversation. Going right back to the statistics, you have people that make decisions based upon data, and then you have decisions based upon people and their gut feeling. And I'm not saying one's right or one's wrong. I'm saying that you have to have an awareness of both, because what happens in our day-to-day lives is that unconsciously we make literally thousands and thousands of decisions every single day unconsciously. And consciously, we only make so many actual conscious decisions. But it's just important to understand that based upon our past, our experiences, good and bad, going all the way back to when we were children, that is all swimming around in our unconscious mind, and that is affecting our conscious decisions. We just don't even know it. So it's important, I think, just for everyone to have an awareness about those decisions. You may find yourself leaning in this one direction, and you don't even know why, but it's your gut's telling you like this is the right way. I think it's important, especially when it comes to big stuff, to unpack that decision. Are you saying no to something you should be saying yes to? Are you saying yes to maybe something you should be saying no to? And if your gut is telling you to go in one direction or another, question that a little bit. Okay, why am I thinking this way? And I think, like I said, John, it's just making sure that you have the awareness around your decision, how you're making your decisions. In other words, some people make them on emotion. Is this an emotional decision right now? Am I pissed off? Do I need to hit the pause button and come back to this a couple of days? I do that all the time. All the time. Yeah. I get something fires me up. I'm like, damn it, do this, and this. And then I just have to remind myself and just say, you know what? This is not the time to make this decision. I need to hit the pause button. I need to just really allow my emotions to calm down to make a better, more intelligent decision. And I'm going to tell you 100% of the time, I make a better decision. Maybe it's not a completely different decision, but the way I go about it is going to be completely different when I'm making it on, really based upon logic, not so much emotion.
Do you think that by pausing, it gives you an opportunity to get some more of the facts, get some more, not necessarily data, but get more pieces of the story?
Yeah, and it allows you time to ask different questions. Like a question like, what else could this mean? You know? And by the way,
Yeah.
I apologize to anybody who's watching this whose head's spinning right now, because we're talking about 3 different books, and we're going into green lights and red lights and the hard thing about hard things and all these things. Well, get these books. That's the first thing I'll tell you. But we geek out on this stuff, and I think that Tony Robbins says the quality of your life is the equivalent of the quality of your questions that you're asking. And
Right.
one of the most important questions that I learned, and I don't know if it was Jay, I think it was Jay, and it might have been you, I can't remember, but what else could this mean, is a great mantra to invite into your daily mindset of asking yourself, what else could this mean? Because it's showing up and it's appearing as this, but could it mean something else? For instance, this just happens. This person says this, this, and this, and immediately our emotions are at a high, and we're like, that son of a, how dare they? They're ungrateful. They're acting like a victim. They're whatever, and we get all pissed off. And then, if we give it a little bit of time, we ask, like, what else could this mean? Oftentimes, I'm going to tell you this right now. More often than not, I'm wrong about how I was initially interpreting that particular situation. And so I think and a lot of times these are situations where we're running into a red light. Things aren't going the exact way that we were hoping they were going to go. But if we can get into the habit of hitting that pause button, taking a couple days, taking a couple hours, whatever it is, to rewind our mindset a bit and thinking and start asking different questions like, well, what else could this mean? And when you ask that question, you don't know what's going on in that person's life. They may have just lost somebody, or maybe someone, in this day and age, someone's got, maybe one of their loved ones is on a respirator with COVID, and they're reacting this way and these things because they're beat down, tired, and they're mentally and physically exhausted. And we didn't even know any of that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a good exercise to start asking those questions.
It's the power of empathy as well, right? And the Cleveland Clinic put out the best 4-minute video that I've ever seen on empathy. And if you guys haven't seen it, you want to be shook into your core, just jump on YouTube and type in Cleveland Clinic empathy and watch that video. Have your kids watch that video. It is truly one of the most powerful things that you could ever watch. And it's when you watch that, you get what empathy really is about. And I honestly believe that that's one of the number one skills that we have to develop, because it ties right back into that question, what else could it mean? It's always layers deeper. You're getting a reactiveness most of the time from people. You're not getting really truly what's going on. So you can't take it at surface value. And if you understand empathy, you know that there's something else always going on. And so that's just a fantastic reminder. And one of the other books that, and I'm throwing another book at everybody, but one of the other books that ties back to what you said, the quality of our life is in direct proportion to the quality of our thinking. And thinking is driven by circumstance. Thinking is driven by environment. That's why we always talk about, how tight you have to protect your circle, and really make sure that those people around you are pushing you and inspiring you to be the best versions of yourself and challenging the way you think. But one of the most foundational books, because as human beings, we immediately judge, right? We're judgers. We immediately judge. And I promise you, all of you guys that jumping in and start watching this, you're judging. You're like, oh, Al, yeah, he's got One Love back there. He's got a record. He must like country. What's this? What's John doing? Like he's not even he's at some location. Like you just immediately start judging, because that's human behavior. But the fastest that you can switch out of judger into learner mode. And that's what Marley Adams teaches in her book, Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. Her whole work is built around change your questions, change your life. We will always judge, but as you were saying, Al, as soon as we have an awareness that we're judging, we switch over to what am I learning? And this ties back to green lights. This ties back to the gap in the gain. they all intertwine together to where it really comes down to the quality of our thinking, but it's always also driven by what are we feeding our mind, who are we surrounding ourselves with, and are we in an environment that's challenging us to not sit at the red light but keep looking for the next green light.
Yeah, so good. So let's run down the books here that we've talked about, because there's a lot of them. So if you want to write these down, we're highly recommending, obviously, Green Light by Matthew McConaughey, The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan. What was the one that you just brought up?
So that is Marley Adams, Marliee Adams. Change Your Questions, Change Your Life.
Huge. And the other one we were talking about was The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. I highly recommend you get the audio for that one, Hard Thing About Hard Things, and the audio for Green Lights.
100%.
But I guess what I want to wrap up with, John, is that I want everybody that's listening to this, if you made it this far, I want everybody to win from what you've learned from this. And I don't want you to feel like you can't win. So, like, for me, this has been some of the toughest things. I grew up a hothead. I could not stand losing. If I lost a tennis match when I was younger, my mom didn't even want to be anywhere near me if I lost a tennis match in high school. Okay. I was not a pleasant person to be around if I lost. And even to this day, I hate losing more than I like winning. But the difference between then and now is that emotional intelligence that we all have an opportunity to grow. We either have an awareness of how we're thinking, the questions we're asking, how we're interpreting a particular situation, or we don't have an awareness. And not having an awareness is a lack of emotional intelligence, meaning you can't control your emotions long enough to maybe think about the situation a little differently. And I think if everybody's listening to this and you struggled with the same things that I've struggled with, understand that this is a practice. It's a daily practice. This isn't something that you just arrive at and like, oh yeah, I got this figured out. It's a constant practice that you're going to hopefully you're going to strengthen, like any skill. There's a skill in thinking differently. And you've taught me that, John. And Mike Reese has been a key, mentor of mine when it comes to thinking about things differently. And of course, Kinder, and the list goes on and on. What's cool is we've surrounded ourselves with some pretty good thinkers. And so anyways, I just wanted everyone to understand that it is a practice, and I hope that everyone leaves and has that awareness and continues their practice.
Yeah, 100% spot on. It is. It's one of those things that's not going to happen overnight. I mean, the decision to focus on it and to grow happens right now, but the work, and it is work. It's a constant. We always catch ourselves. We'll always catch ourselves, and it's just how fast can we get out of that disempowering thinking. And typically what happens is because we're in a disempowering circumstance, or we're in a disempowering environment. So check that immediately. And like Al said, we've been fortunate enough, and this is what Jay and I, talk about, we've talked about a lot, is, how fortunate it was, to have each other since 2005 and pushing each other every day to be better. And then, who you allow into that circle, and are they pushing, do they meet that standard that we have? And it's just one of the most powerful things that you can build and design, is how you craft that circle around you. And my favorite thing, Al, is go back to the perfect day exercise. And when you have to think about the perfect day exercise in terms of, if you're going to eat lunch, who are you eating lunch with? And if you're eating lunch, what are you talking about? And so when you go through that exercise, you start to catch yourself. You're like, man, I'm eating lunch at a place that I would never have lunch with this person, and I would never talk about it with this person. So, when we were in the land on Sunday, we went and ate slime. It's like that would fit into my perfect day, right? Being able to have a great meal with you, having a great conversation. And you just got to be real careful who you allow into that circle and the conversations that you're having. And one thing before we let everybody go out, you said emotional intelligence, and I did an earlier expert mentors on emotional intelligence, and if we can, I'll tag that episode into the comments of this one. But it is one of the most important skills that we have to develop. Gary Vee's been on his soapbox for the last couple of years talking about it. In fact, his whole new book is all about it as well. And when you unpack emotional intelligence, Al, it comes into 5 things. We hit on a couple of those, talking about empathy. You talked about self-awareness, basically knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at, having a self-awareness of your strengths. The other is self-regulation. This is the one you hit on. Are you able to regulate and control your emotions? Then the other 2 are motivation, because motivation comes from within. Nobody can motivate us. People can inspire us, but motivation comes from within, and there's good and bad motivation. And then social skills. How can we carry ourselves? How do we handle ourselves in public and environment, in our community, and with our relationships? So, yeah, I mean, if you guys are looking to up your capabilities internally for yourself, emotional intelligence is one of the most important things to do, right? So Patrick Lencioni talks about the ideal team player is humble, hungry, and smart. And what he means by smart is that they have a high level of emotional intelligence. Those are the best team players. And if you want to be the best team player, even if you're the CEO running your own organization, you still have to be a team player. So how humble are you? How hungry are you? And where's that emotional intelligence level at?
Love it, man. I appreciate you bringing me on here, brother.
Yeah, brother.
Happy New Year. It'll be a great year, 2022.
Yeah, man. No better way to end the year with having you on. And so I really appreciate you jumping in and adding a ton of value back to the Honey Badger Nation. And man, excited for the next year and beyond. And man, wish all of you guys the best. Very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, brother. Love you. We'll see you.
Love you.